What is up, everyone? What is up? It's Wednesday, right? Happy hump day! Yay, yay! I know that's a dated reference, but I will never drop that. For those who know, no. What's up, everybody? It is Wednesday. I think in a few minutes here, my stream bot should finally kick off. I'm eventually gonna up those checks on. I don't know. I'll have to figure it out. You can set up monitor position to tilt to any degree on Linux. You can't do that on Windows. This is true. You have a lot more customizability with how you want your desktop and your user interface and all that to display. It's great. Nice hacking shirt. Yeah, I got this one from a event from a vendor, and I like it. I like their other shirt better. They had the "Get in, loser, we're going hacking" with, you know, the meme of the ladies in the convertible. That one. I love that shirt a little bit more, but I don't like to, you know, be nasty and not wear clean shirts. What's up, Chief? We're currently finishing God of War Ragnarok, and it runs so smoothly on Linux. Yeah, God of War games have actually run really well. I forgot which God of War game I got, which was my first God of War game. We played it a while ago. It ran incredibly smoothly. Unlike Borderlands, which just runs like garbage even on console. I'm not going to let that one go. I'm not going to let this go. I don't know if you'll notice that Borderlands 4 was really choppy during the last stream, especially towards the end. I don't know what happened because I didn't change any settings or anything, and I was getting like frames in the 20s. It was a bit ridiculous. Snooze those ads for a sec. But does it run Counter-Strike 2? You can run Counter-Strike 2. Well, Counter-Strike 2 is the one that was made by Valve themselves. If so, Valve has made every one of their games work on Linux. In fact, I think many of them are native. Like, they don't even run over Proton. I could be mistaken there. But I know that all the Valve games work. Hold on, I got the Valve Steam Pack. Yeah, Counter-Strike 2. Yeah, that'll work on Linux. I got it. I haven't played it yet. At least not on this PC. I played it years ago on another account that I forgot the access to. But I have it here. You can see my library over here. So, here, I'll bring it over for the peasants on the musical notes site. But yeah, Counter-Strike, Counter-Strike 2, Counter-Strike Condition 0, Counter-Strike Condition 0 deleted scenes, Counter-Strike Source, all here. I bought this in the Valve pack they had for like a few bucks. But yeah, almost all of these games here work on Linux. A couple of them did work on Linux, and then Epic decided to be a see you next Tuesday and make them not work anymore. Namely, Apex Legends. It actually did work on Linux, and it worked well. Then they decided to put a kernel-level anti-cheat in, and it went to crap. But yeah, most of these games work just fine on Linux. Very few issues. The only issues I've run into were a couple with kernel-level anti-cheat. But for those, there's been a misconception that people say, oh, well, you can't use anti-cheat on Linux. That's wrong. Halo the Master Chief Collection has an anti-cheat. You can play it with the anti-cheat. What's up, Hans? How's it going, buddy? But yeah, you can play a lot of games. I very rarely had an issue. I think the last game that, yeah, like there's a couple, like Gundam Evolution I wanted to play. That wouldn't work without a kernel level anti... What, was it that? There's another Gundam game. There's something I wanted to play that it just would not work without a kernel level anti-cheat. Elden Ring does work on Linux. I know the recent update had some issues with it, but they've worked through it. It wasn't anything that bad. The finals have anti-cheat. I play on my Linux-powered Steam Deck handheld PC. Yeah, And the reality is, more developers are going to be embracing Linux as more people switch to Linux, because the Steam Deck is serious money. Okay? People buy this device, and a lot of people buy the Steam Deck without knowing it has Linux. And you have to think about this. A lot of gamers are not necessarily that technically savvy. I'm not saying that as a derogatory thing, that's just a statement of fact. A lot of these people, when they get their Steam Deck, are not going to understand it doesn't work with a particular game, and I've seen this happen quite a bit, where they actually go complain to the developer saying, I wanted this to work on my Steam Deck, but I'm returning the game because it doesn't work on my Steam Deck. How long have I been using Pop! OS and Linux in general? Pop! OS specifically I've been using since their first LTS. I want to say 1804, that could have been 2004. First LTS of Pop! OS. 2004 was the first LTS, so that would have been back in 2020. That's how they name it. 2004 is April 4th, 2020. April 2020, not April 4th. But Linux in general, I was introduced to it when I was about 8 or 9 years old, when it was still a relatively, new thing, but a lot of people were using it. But I personally started using Linux daily late in high school, around Windows Vista being released. Because Windows Vista broke a lot of the hardware that we had around the house, and my family had gone through a divorce, so it was really expensive to justify replacing a printer and such, just because Windows Vista wouldn't support it. And, yeah. I was wondering what was going to happen there. So my alerts finally are hitting, so the, gang should be coming through. Yep. Okay, I'm loving this automation that I built. For those of you that are not aware, we do have a Discord and a Matrix server. And we have alerts now on the Matrix server. And the Discord, I just always like to double check because this is still such a new thing. Yep. Stream alerts are going off from the Raspberry Pi. I have a Raspberry Pi 3B Plus running this automation and Star Daemon. How do you feel about FreeBSD? I like FreeBSD's network stack even better than Linux, which is why I use pfSense in my home network. Every year, this is going to be the year of Linux desktop. I don't say it's going to be the year of the Linux desktop. All I've said is that I think more people are going to switch over. When that critical mass happens, that it then becomes the year of the Linux desktop, that's to be seen. But one could argue we've already reached it since Android is a Linux. Just putting it out there. How do I feel about I2P versus Tor? Two different use cases. Tor will actually connect over ClearNet, whereas I2P keeps it contained in itself. So Tor is great to get around censorship. I2P technically has a better structure, but I'm keeping more of an eye on Valid. That was something that came out in DEF CON 31, and yeah. As soon as Linux allows kernel level anti-cheat, it will floor Windows. Technically speaking, devs could develop a kernel level anti-cheat. There's nothing stopping them. But what's going to stop a lot of people from wanting to play it is the second you get the window to pop up that you have to put your password in to give it root privileges for a video game. And that's going to make a lot of people go, wait, hold up! I only have to do this when I need root access. And that is not something a lot of Linux users take lightly. So, yeah, keep that in mind. You're level 8 in the Minecraft GTA? Jeez. Yep. So the Mastodon integration's working. I just like to make sure that my little stream daemon's working. Yep, they're all working. Cool. Is Linux hard to use? It's different. It's not really hard to use. A lot of people are like, well, you have to use terminal. You don't really. It's just different. In fact, I would argue, if given a person not knowing anything about computers, like, they don't know what a computer is, okay? You sit them in front of a Windows and a Linux computer and ask them to use it and understand it and how to, operate it, Linux will actually make a lot more sense. The reason why is I want you to think about this critically for a second before people jump down my throat. When you need to configure Windows, how many menus and such are you stumbling through? How many different programs do you have to use to configure and administrate Windows to the way you want? I want you to think about this. You have registry editors. You have control panel. You've got MMC snap-ins, group policies. A lot of, things I'm leaving out of this. Like if you get into the enterprise level, we're talking SCCM, Active Directory, yada, yada, yada. In Linux, to administrate almost all the entire system, you just need one tool. A text editor. Everything is a file in Linux. Everything can be configured. Everything can be tweaked. Now, a lot of people will say at first it might be more difficult. True, but the learning curve, it's not a steep one. Many years ago, it used to be a lot more steep, but it's a lot easier now where a lot of people can just install it, open up the App Store for your respective operating system, install the apps you need, or go to the website and download the Debian package or RPM if it's a Red Hat type or whatever, or an app image, and then launch that. That's how you actually get Steam to work. Steam, you go right to valve.com, or Valve, or whatever, Steam download, or I forget the exact site. Go download it, and it works. But it's also built into the Pop Shop that I can literally, right here, this is the Pop Shop, okay? This is the system, you can update your system if you want, everything from here. I do it through Terminal because I find it a little bit faster, but as you can see, I can install Steam right from the Pop Shop. You can't do that in Windows, not with almost every app, and everything is managed in a package. So Linux has had a package manager since the early 90s. I want you to hear what I just said. They've had a package manager since the 90s. Windows only just got WinGet a few years ago, and it's iffy. So you can download and manage almost every app in the entire system. So when I do an apt upgrade on my system to upgrade the entire system, it's not just upgrading system components. It's grabbing in my latest NVIDIA drivers, if available. It's grabbing the latest Signal download, Slack download, LibreOffice, Firefox, you name it. Except for the things that are in a Flatpak, but that's a sandboxed application. But those are really great to use too. Flatpak, you can actually run any app, almost any app, in a sandbox. Not a virtual machine, but it's like a good, space between that. So you can actually isolate it from quite a few different things. So the idea is if something nasty happens there, it could potentially be a little bit more contained. And you have to grant it access to different things. Don't even end this wrapper for Wi-Fi. Yeah, you don't even have to do that anymore. I spend most of my time in a command prompt. Yeah, it shocks people when I say Windows, you have to be in Terminal just to be able to do a lot of the powerful things that you need to do in a day-to-day job. It's the honest truth. Tell them how Windows doesn't even have a proper user manual. Oh, yeah! Yeah! We have man pages. So you have man pages where basically you can get the information on anything in your system. Hold on. get an example for you. Okay, so you can go like, this is an example. You can get an entire app with descriptions and all of that. This is common practice in Linux to, you know, have your app spelled out. This is just one random app that I just did open. You can go through the library. Okay, this site's not the easiest to explore there. Let me find a better one. Man pages. Long-time lurker, I'm in the middle of an upgrade and can use some advice. Don't eat the yellow snow. No, what's up? There we go. This might be a little bit easier. So you can have, like, user commands. There's a lot of different user commands. Not all of them are going to apply to you. But, let's even have file formats. Yeah, you can find that information as easily in Windows. Yeah, I'm on Pop OS. If Linux was commercial, people would build it like Windows. What do you mean if it was commercial? It is commercial. There's companies that actually support it, like Red Hat, which is owned by IBM now. I dislike app images. I understand why they exist and why they are superior in some cases. Yeah, they can be annoying, but they also can be very easy to work with because you don't have to worry as much about dependencies and stuff. That's the same reason why I like Flatpak. Remember, your ass peed on the dream apartment of two pissed off raccoons. Don't piss them off. My OS is Pop OS. Yep, Flatpak is great. Fedora is actually good. So the only issue I have with Fedora, and I'm not by any means hating it, is a lot of my work I prefer to have a stable environment with. So that's why, what is it, Fedora moves like a release every 6 months. That's great. I just don't want to have to like change every 6 months. So I like to have at least a few years where I don't have to, you know, completely overhaul everything. But that's the great thing about Linux. There's so many different ones that, you know, cater to different, you know, priorities and workflows, and you can literally choose to... Hey, thank you for the 100 biddies! And I just realized my... Is streamer bot not working? Okay, it was working, but it didn't send the biddies. Thank you for the 100 biddies. Who was that? Was that DJ Spartacus? What's up, buddy? I don't know why it did not, have the printer go off. Interesting. So I actually have, like, a, printer over here that, is supposed to print out... Oh, if greater than 100. Oh, I messed up on that setting. That's why. And this is why we troubleshoot. Make it higher than 50. I was thinking it was equal to or greater than 100. Never used Game Boy camera and printer? Yes, I have back in the day. That was the shit. Did I hear that Microsoft is removing the control panel from Windows 11? They've been talking about that for years. They were talking about it back with Windows 10. This shouldn't surprise anyone. I was actually going to make a follow-up video to my Linux video because there were a lot of people that, you know, gave the pushback to, you know, well, you know, there's enterprise, LTSC, and IoT versions of Linux, and the reality is a lot of people don't realize that is specifically for enterprise and industrial that oftentimes have support contracts with companies far exceeding the consumer software lifecycle. So it may work now, but we saw this with Windows XP. We saw this with Windows 7. I'm going to do those push-ups tomorrow at the gym. Okay? I killed myself earlier. I need to change that reward. I'll send you the video. It's just dev. But, okay, so what I was saying is, Enterprise LTSC and IoT, even though they have a life cycle for Windows 10 that'll last till 2032, a lot of people are not realizing Windows itself may get support. But all the developers that are developing specifically in the consumer space aren't going to really support it. So down the line, it may be next week, next month, next year, the year after. I don't know exactly when. But the reality is, there will be consumer apps that are going to require features or functions that are not in Windows 10. We saw this happen with Windows 7. We saw this happen with Windows XP. They were technically still supported for a while, but eventually consumer apps stopped working. People, may get support for enterprise and industrial apps. Like, let's think about it this way. And I was going to go into this in the next YouTube video that I make. You have CNC machines, computer numerical control, that cuts out metal and all those different pieces you see a lot of machinists use. They buy those devices, those machines. They're expecting a 10 or more year life cycle and often buy support contracts to support that for a while. So it may ship with a Windows 10 IoT controller, but it's really just going to be purpose-built for that, and the enterprise application manufacturer is going to support it for that contract. The same thing happens with aviation. Jets have a life cycle, I forget exactly, like 15 to 20 years. They far exceed the lifespan of the computers they're often on. That there are many hangars out there that are still running Windows XP, or even sometimes older. Like, I literally have heard from people that they were still using Windows 98 up until last year. And that's purely because the software in that industry for that specific plane doesn't work on anything later than that. And you couldn't get it working in compatibility. Even newer hardware has some issues with Windows 10 installed because it was designed for Windows 11. Exactly. And that's going to continue happening in the consumer space. So that's why I tell people, either you A, suck it up and move on to Windows 11, and I'm putting my money where my mouth is. The Stream PC, as I've talked about over here, is Windows. Primarily because I started out needing a Windows test machine for a lot of things I wanted bare metal on. My main machine is Linux, though. The Windows PC became the Stream PC over time because it was just right here. It was running Windows 10 Enterprise for years, and now it's on Windows 11 Enterprise. That's right, Enterprise. My key entitled me just as well to have this run up until 2032. But I chose not to do that because I knew that this computer is going to be running what is basically consumer hardware. And eventually, that's going to cause some issues if I do happen to stay on Windows. Ran Gen 2 on my servers and Fedora and Arch KDE on my desktop. So basically, your servers never run because they're always compiling. Oh, by the way, I had someone ask me the other day, if Arch users are the CrossFit vegans, what are the Gen 2 users? And I came up with the perfect answer for that the other day. Freaking vegans. Arch users are CrossFit vegans. Gen 2 users are freaking vegans. Depressed orphans. That works too. Beyond personal preference, would it be more advantageous for web dev? Linux, Windows, or Mac? Well, it depends on what you're developing for the web, but I can tell you, Yitz does full stack development, and he uses at least Windows Subsystem for Linux when he's dealing with React and other things. Hey, vegans, have some respect. I have no issue with veganism. I just have an issue with vegans. Make that clear. Just in the same way as I have no issue with Christianity. I have an issue with some Christians. But seriously, in terms of web dev, Linux might be a little bit better. Here's why. Yes, on Windows, you could use Windows Subsystem for Linux, but then that would answer the question of you're still using Linux. With Linux, you can easily run the web server on the computer. You can technically do that on Windows too, but running a web server, even a simple LAMP or LEMP stack, well, not LAMP, it'd be a WAMP or WEMP stack, because it's not Linux, Apache, MariaDB, or MySQL and PHP, or a Linux Nginx and MariaDB or MySQL and PHP. It'd be a Windows, and yada yada yada. Wouldn't Docker make it allow you to do it anywhere it's supported? Not necessarily. And what are you going to be using in that Docker? What's the operating system you're probably going to use in that Docker? Think about that for a second. Docker has its own operating system to run the files inside of it. So at that point, yes, you could put Docker on Windows to run a Linux-powered Docker. So you'd end up going back to Linux. But ultimately, you need a dev for Linux for a lot of web stuff. Now, the actual website itself, you can do that on any operating system. But once you start actually configuring, testing, tinkering, building web infrastructure, it's going to be a Linux or a FreeBSD. You can technically do it on Windows, but you're going to hate yourself every step of the way. And if you think I'm wrong there, go talk to a sysadmin. You can run Windows on a Docker container now. Yes, you can. But will you want to download a multiple gigabyte Docker container? Like, let's put it this way. I Dockerized this entire application here. Okay? With the Stream Daemon. That's the one that gives the notifications for everything. This thing is roughly 400 megabytes. Everything contained inside the Docker. To run the operating system and all that, it's running a slimmed down version of Debian, 400 megabytes. How much space would you need for Windows to do the same thing? Like, straight up. What about the Linux from scratch users? They don't really exist. Even Linux from scratch says you shouldn't be using Linux from scratch as your daily operating system. It's a learning device. It's an interesting thing to try, but I guess the better word for them would be masochist. My mods are having a fight. Okay, so 20 gigabytes, 2 to 5 gigabytes. That's still a lot of space. Now think about it. You need operation time. So let's say, for a simplistic argument here, we're serving an application through Docker. We're splitting it up in AWS as an ECS. You technically do have a 10 gigabyte max that you can make of a Docker to push to AWS for their Elastic Container Service. But a larger container is going to have a larger startup time. It's going to be longer. And at that point, do you really trust Windows there? And how are you going to keep it updated to do all the things that you need to do? It's just, you're going to end up doing more work than you actually need to do the same thing. Got myself a different server, got an HPE DL360p Xeon 192 gigs to set up a LLM with K8s and use my desktop GPU. Nice! Yeah, I'm going to be building my LLM server this weekend. So I forgot, when I upgraded my stream PC here, my stream PC originally had an NVIDIA 1660 Super, a Ryzen 5 3400G, and the motherboard, I can't remember what it was. So the CPU with the heatsink and the motherboard are still good. I just got to probably repaste it. I need memory, a power supply, and a case. So what I was also going to do this weekend was I've been wanting to upgrade the stream PC anyway from my NVIDIA 3050 in here to a 5050 to get AV1 encode. So I'm going to be making an LLM PC that's going to have the 3050 as well as the 1660 Super. And here's what I was thinking of doing. Eventually I'm going to upgrade the GPU from the 3050 to something else. Well, the 1660 Super to something else. But I can set up N8N to potentially do a workflow. I still have the high-level concept of what I'm going to do. Because I want to do a text-to-speech, but the problem I had with a lot of text-to-speech services is I didn't like how non-configurable they all were. I feel like I need to set up some guardrails and safeties in there. Because I've seen some funny things where people have trolled people through TTS, but I want to put some controls. So the idea is, TTS goes down, I think Stream Elements is an API I can probably mess with for the tipping. You put your money in there, it will pull down through the API about that, run it through a workflow to process it through an LLM locally to see, is it, harassment, the other slurs, things like that, and then do that processing, redact it, whatever, and then it's going to do a human in the loop where I plan to have a channel with myself and certain moderators that are going to be able to approve that message being released. Which it would go from the 3050 doing the LLM to the 1660 Super to do the TTS to generate the speech file. Because the 1660 Super can do that plenty fine. But it's only got 6 gigabytes of memory, so it can't run all the LLMs as nice as I want. Now, eventually, what I would like to do is put something like a 5070 Ti in there so I can get a 16 gigabyte VRAM GPU and do some more powerful models. But before I do that, I want to put a 5070 Ti in this boy at least, or a 5080, one of the two. Upgrade for my 3070 in here. Who are the communists of Linux distro users? The interesting thing is that when it comes to Linux, there's been arguments both for that it's communist and that it's also libertarian by the people that were involved in Linux from the very beginning. Eric S. Raymond argues that it's a bit more libertarian. That's the guy that actually wrote The Cathedral and the Bazaar, and I believe he's the one that also coined the term open source. Richard Stallman would probably say it's a little bit more communist. But I think both are right. Hold on, I'm catching up on chat. What the hell, Vampire, were you? You're just ragging on just to have... Used Arch and Pop OS on my desktop, but always went back to Windows for gaming like COD, thinking about going back to Linux and just getting a console for gaming. I mean, that's an idea, but here's the thing, console gaming's also going to crap because of Microsoft. And also, I'm just gonna say it, there are no good Call of Duty games anymore. That's why I don't care anymore. What do the new Call of Duty games really do all that much that the Call of Duty games back with the Xbox 360 didn't already do, more or less? Some people may hate me for that opinion, but I'm tired of companies taking IP, brushing it up a little bit, re-releasing the game more or less, and making money. There are really no original ideas coming from a lot of the game studios now, which is why indie devs are killing it. Because indie devs are coming up with original ideas. People want original ideas. And I'm really worried about Elder Scrolls 6. I am. After Starfield, I got worried because I saw what Bethesda was capable of or not capable of when trying a whole new IP. Because Elder Scrolls 3, great game. Love the lore. Very rich. Very deep. Elder Scrolls 4, still pretty good. The lore wasn't as deep. It was really piggybacking a lot of the lore off of Elder Scrolls 1, 2, and 3. But still decently good. Skyrim, same pattern continued. For the most part. I'm wondering how Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be. Because it's basically going to play off the old lore that they had. But they can't have genuine ideas without relying on prior IP lore, because look at what happened to Starfield when they started fresh. They hyped up this game so much, and it was such a flop. It had a lot of potential. The reason we have issues. RMS has some very good ideas. Yeah, he has some good ideas, but yeah. Hey, thank you for the follow there. I think that was a follow. Yeah, Zighty Bitey, thank you for the follow. Why can't we have a new release for Need for Speed Rivals? Okay, if you're gonna re-release any game out of the Need for Speed collection, Need for Speed Underground 1 and 2. Who's with me? That is one game I have been trying to hunt down to play again. Yes, I can get it. I find it on Abandonware or something like that, but it doesn't work as well from what I've been trying. It's still checking for the CD, and I gotta figure out how to get around that using wine and stuff. But Need for Speed Underground, by far, favorite parts of the Need for Speed franchise. Most Wanted was pretty good too. Like the OG Most Wanted, like the one that came after Underground 2. I think they had a new one that wasn't as great. I think it was Most Wanted. I think. The newest installment? Was the newest installment the one where they basically made it like, pay to win, or, you know, they had the cards or something like that? Like, you didn't have the whole feel you did with, Need for Speed, where part of the fun was customizing your car, upgrading the parts, you know, all of that, and now you just got, like, random cards to, like, beef up your ride. Why can't GOG buy Need for Speed Underground? Because I think the licensing is still held by EA or some other company. But I know it's a rights issue. With a lot of the games that are in Abandonware and you can't get them, it comes down to a legal issue. Consoles are getting PC specs anyway, so you might as well go Steam now. Yeah, that's kind of where it's going as well, because if you look at the Xbox One X, it's really just like an AMD CPU. It's really basically the same. I'm oversimplifying it a little bit. But it's basically the same specs as the Steam handheld. I want you to think about that. They're both AMD CPUs. I think the PlayStation 5 is just that way as well. Oh, let me double check that before I commit that to an answer. But I remember something like the PS5 was no longer like the cell processor. Yep, PS5 is a custom AMD Zen 2 core CPU, 8-core processor with a variable frequency up to 3.5 gigahertz. Okay, so yeah, I was right. It's an AMD CPU. And with the price increases they're having on consoles, you may as well buy a desktop. Yeah, you're right. Indie devs for the win. You gotta play online games on console, at least on most of the online games. Maybe. You have a question about filament? What's your question? European Union is trying to get rid of microtransactions. Yeah, the European Union has a few misses, like when they try to do chat control and all that, but they, I think, overall do have a better approach when it comes to, privacy rights, well, chat control kind of puts that in question, and, consumer rights. And I think a lot of countries should look to a lot of the EU policies and go and mirror them. But of course, in the US, lobbyists have too much money, so that's probably not going to happen. RBR is better despite being ancient. What's RBR? That sounds familiar. Now we can play retro games like NES games on Android phones. Yeah, well, the emulation has gotten so far ahead that it's crazy. Had some questions about Linux. Do you mind if I send them your way? You don't have to ask, just ask away. Are there any news on Linux phones? Not really. There was that little thing with Free Software Foundation, but the Free Software Foundation was like working on the firmware side of the phones, not really the software side. So it was It was much ado about nothing in the grand scheme of things. I think that was a swing and a miss from the Free Software Foundation, because I do think there needs to be work on Linux phones. Every time I've tried them, it's an interesting toy to play with, but they're kind of clunky. I have the Pine phone and the Librem 5 over here, and they stay in my desk for a reason. They're interesting devices to play with. Don't get me wrong. But I've never found them that usable. Like, in the context of, as a daily phone, and even as a portable PC, it felt like it was the sucky version of both. And that's where I think the Linux phones really need to improve, but there would have to be some kind of a collective effort on that front. Let's check. What's chat going on? The mods are duking it out. Just Need for Speed. Most Wanted was fine, yeah. We have a whole Discord server, too, with all kinds of topics like Home Lab and radio. Yep! I always forget to remind people, we do have the Discord server, we do have the Matrix server. You're more than welcome to join. The links are in bio. I'll drop that tag in chat for that. I still gotta make the kick responses for the bot and everything. I always forget that. I'm trying to work on the kick side of things, okay? I at least built bots to notify when I'm live on Kick. Hey, it's an improvement. I'm giving you all options. But, with that being said, IA still running? Which one's IA? Check Internet Archive. I'm sure people put the disk there. It's not the issue of the disk. It's the issue of how do I get... Because I don't have an actual physical disk drive here. Okay? How do I mount the disk in a way as a virtual disk to make the game think of how to the game think that it's just a regular disk to, you know, grab whatever off of. What's Matrix? Matrix is a decentralized, federated chat app that also allows for encryption optionally. So this is my Matrix server over here. It looks pretty much like Discord. You can have different rooms, you can join in and have chats. This community is quite a bit smaller, but this is a server I run. As in, not Discord's bastardized way of what a server is, a true server. I'm not in Discord's infrastructure or Matrix's infrastructure. It's federated, so I can go from here to another Matrix server. So, like, Louis Rossman. This is Louis Rossman's Matrix server over here. And I'm accessing his server, which is completely different because he's on matrix.org from my server. Kind of like email. So that's the beauty of it. So it's decentralized, it's federated, and it allows for optional encryption if you do enable it. Like, you know, we have a secure general which does encrypt, so the actual disk on the machine, if I ever were to shut that down. Yeah, but that box itself is hosted virtually over in the EU, in Sweden. But yeah, this is Matrix. You're more than welcome to join it. Just set up an account on, you know, matrix.org or build your own Matrix server. Then you can federate in and join. But I've recently been making to work with Matrix. It's quite a bit different when you're making bots for them. All right. I'm looking to go to Linux. I want to know how's the emulation on the distros and stuff. Emulation's fine. You can play Nintendo 64, PlayStation, and all that. If you're thinking, though, because I've seen a lot of people make this misconception, running Windows applications on Linux is not emulation. You use the software called Wine, which literally stands for Wine is not an emulator. It's a compatibility layer. So let's get that very clear. If you're talking about like, oh, well, I have to emulate Windows. No, you don't. You just have to make a compatibility layer to translate the calls that Windows hooks into to Linux speak, basically. That's all Wine's doing. And of course, Proton is basically a compilation of Wine, DXVK, and a couple others like VK3. Basically, it's also adapting the calls from like DirectX to Vulkan and Windows version of Vulkan to Linux version of Vulkan. Vulkan games work really well on Linux because it doesn't have to do that much, but there's also cases where games on Linux play better on Linux than they do on their Windows side of things. You know, I'm really curious. Hold on. So cheer bits did work. Don't know why it didn't send out. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, it's working. I don't know why it didn't go off early. That's weird. Do Linux phones still get updates? Yeah, they still get updates. That's not an issue. The issue is just that they're kind of clunky overall. Opinion on framework laptops? I haven't personally used them that much. I don't have a negative opinion of them. It's just that I know they are in a bit of hot water right now in terms of PR because of pushing for Omarchy Linux, and there's DHH that made it, who's a little bit controversial in the community. I've already touched on that a little bit. But as far as the hardware itself, I don't really have complaints. I have friends who absolutely love them. I've just personally not gone out of my way to buy them. And it's nothing against them. I prefer, you know, like, having a little bit more customization. Like this is my laptop from Tuxedo Computers. They put my logo on here custom. That's not a sticker. They even put my logo on the super key over there. And this is a nice little laptop I picked up. The company's from Germany. This has a Ryzen 9 8845HS, 96 gigabytes of RAM, an NVIDIA 4070, and 2 terabytes of NVMe, and I can fit a second NVMe in here. It's a nice laptop. 3-year warranty included for a total of like $2,500. It's a little bit expensive, but it suits what I need for work. Again, nothing against Framework. They just don't have what I need or want. That's what it comes down to. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like I said, I have friends who use it and they love it. And if they love it, power to them. And it's not that I hate streamer, hate it or anything. It's just not my cup of tea. Hold on, I'm trying to, get streamer bot working. I tried to restart it so I could, get that going. Okay. Interesting how it's saying that, but okay. Okay, actions and queues, integrations, services. Pardon me, I'm just doing a little troubleshooting on something that I had. Oh, I gotta import that. Okay. Okay. Now... there we go. There we go. Cool. The perils of being a streamer. Matrix is a form of encrypted messaging. Think of it like Discord and Signal being mashed into one system. It has the option of being encrypted, but yeah. Discord doesn't have encrypted messaging. You can do end-to-end encryption on the voice chat using their protocol they call Dave, but it's not the same. Do you think there will be a massive Linux movement in the next 5 years? I would say that we're kind of in the middle of it right now. The fact that Valve has actually been willing to spend the money that they're doing, and they're spending quite a bit of money on the Linux community to build pipelines and stuff to better produce the software for SteamOS says a lot. Here's the reality, and I need people to take off your goggles about, like, well, Windows, kernel, forget that for a second. Microsoft is a threat to gaming. If you think I'm joking, look at what happened after they acquired Activision. Activision Blizzard. They laid off people. They shut down studios they've acquired. The games have gotten stale. Like, I want you to compare Microsoft. The Microsoft Xbox that I grew up with, that gave us Master Chief, that gave us amazing characters and amazing experience, to what we got today. Microsoft has a philosophy that they've actually been outed for, doing by the Department of Justice, called Embrace, Extend, Extinguish. This is their MO. They will embrace the technology. They will extend it with Microsoft-specific things and basically extinguish the competition or the actual product there so that, yeah. Microsoft ruined the Minecraft brand. There you go. That's another example. Minecraft was an amazing, game for a lot of people. Microsoft bought it. Has it really been that great since? Probably not. Activision used to be good. Last good game, Diablo 2. That's a fair point. That's another thing with Blizzard that's really upset me. They have not done a Warcraft game outside of World of Warcraft since Warcraft 3. And I want you to think about this for a second. World of Warcraft has been around so long that there are kids now who have played World of Warcraft and have no idea about Warcraft 1 through 3 and the original spawn of where the whole Warcraft IP came from. Think about that. But what I was saying, when it comes to, a revolution and all that, Valve is spending a ton of money. They want the Steam Deck to really succeed. And why is it that Valve is going this way? Like any other game developer reasonably could just say, you know what? It's not worth spending this money. We'll just keep pushing out Windows games, and keep supporting that. We don't need to worry about Linux. We don't need to worry about spending money to make an entire compatibility suite to get games working on Linux. We don't need to spend all this money to go PR to different studios as to why you should make your game compatible with Linux. We don't need to spend all this money to put in on infrastructure to build Linux-specific packages in Arch pipelines and stuff. They're spending a lot of money. But why are they doing this? And that's where a lot of people are not thinking about this. That's because they actually see Microsoft as a threat. With the Windows Store, the Xbox Store, they were forcing people to go into the store, their digital store, to buy games and stuff from their marketplace. And in some cases, some of those games are exclusive to the Xbox Store. That's the problem. And ultimately, Valve saw that Microsoft as a whole is a threat to not just their business, but the entire video gaming industry. And this is what a lot of gamers really don't seem to wrap their head around. If we allow Microsoft to continue doing what they've been doing, the situation is going to get worse and worse for gamers as a whole. Whether we like it or not, one of the few escape hatches we have is honestly considering Linux as an alternative. And that is why I've even taken the stance of if my game doesn't work on Linux, that's fine. I got tens of thousands of other games I can go enjoy my time with. There's plenty of games I've, bought and enjoyed and played on Linux. There's only been I'd say I can count on maybe one hand over the past few years that I've bought and then couldn't play and then returned. And I cited the reason as doesn't work with Linux. And if enough people go to the developers and say we want it to work on Linux, they'll make it work on Linux. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, they have to be able to cater to their audience that buys the product, because at the end of the day, they have to make line go up on stock market. Which is also the reason why a lot of video games have gone to crap, because they want to do the safe thing. That example uses elements of the Matrix client. There are others. I use Gamux. Yeah, there's plenty of others that you can use. I like Element because I'm a basic bitch. Oh, you're talking about PS3 games? Yeah, you can emulate PS3. I haven't done it personally, but I know people have done it. How long until Windows gives up and becomes Linux? Well, they kind of have. They've accepted the fact that a lot of developers were switching. So, many years ago, developers had two choices to really do serious development. Get a Mac, or do it on Linux. Because Windows development didn't support everything. There were a lot of issues with like the Microsoft C compiler versus the GNU C compiler. As I was told a story by a developer, why they started using Linux is they wanted to build a program in what's called C99. It was the standard for C in 1999. Well, Microsoft C compiler didn't support C99. And they didn't support C99 because their argument was nobody's coding in C99. But Microsoft doesn't support C99. Do you see the catch-22 in that? So they actually built their program in C and built it on Linux using the GNU C compiler. And GNU C compiler is an open source, version. And that was one of the reasons why they started pivoting more towards Linux for their development stuff. Well, situations like that kept happening for Microsoft, where there's just by far better dev tools in the Unix type operating systems, or Unix like operating systems is a better way to say it. Your FreeBSDs, your Mac, your Linux. So what did Microsoft do? Well, you may have heard of this thing. It's called Windows Subsystem for Linux. You can install Linux inside Windows as a virtual machine that actually integrates into the Windows machine pretty nicely. That on my work computer, I can open up VS Code on Windows and it will open a terminal shell in WSL. So I'm doing everything on Ubuntu over there for a lot of my coding because a lot of my tools don't work in Windows. So Microsoft has basically had to accept that Linux is filling the gaps for what they can't do. WSL2 was a huge improvement to WSL. Yes. And I would even argue, and some people are going to hate me for this, my work switched to Windows 11 quite a while ago. Windows 11 actually works a lot better for my, WSL needs. There's a lot better integration with Windows Subsystem for Linux on Windows 11 than there was 10. There's just a few things I've noticed that it just worked more smoothly. That's about one of the few things I will say positive for Windows 11. You can run GPT OSS 120B on that. Not really. The GPU is going to be a restraint on that. Just want to play GTA Online. Laptops aren't made for gaming. For the same money, always get a desktop. Well, I can't really fit this in my bag and take it with me on a plane, can I? I think a lot of people don't consider the fact that when people get gaming laptops, it's often as a result of they don't have the space to actually have a desktop. There's a lot of people that, are very mobile. I know some digital nomads that have a gaming laptop because they game on the go. They're literally working on laptops. There's business people that do that. Well, now, gaming on a desktop, yeah, it's going to be better. But when you understand that you are still, you're using a more mobile form factor, that outweighs the performance benefit. And here's the thing. That laptop there, I take with me so I can do editing on the go sometimes. Or I will do some work with LLMs or whatever else I need to do. And that can be able to do all the work this can do. It may not have as many CPU cores. It's got half as much, because that's a 5950X and that's a 8845HS. That's what, 8 cores, 16 threads? This is 16 cores, 32 threads. But laptops are fine. As long as, and most people, like I said, that are buying laptops, gaming laptops, aren't doing it because, I'm doing this, as a cost consideration. They're doing it more as they have a mobility concern. They distracted me with a working trampoline. Is Dave hot? Talking about the Dave protocol? Yeah. Activision used to give you good last game, good game, Diablo 2. I think we talked about that. Windows 11's hardware requirements made my 5-year-old laptop obsolete. If I can get Adobe software to run right, I'll sunset my Win 10 distro. Well, it depends on what Adobe software you're running. Because there are alternatives for some software. I don't know what your workflow is. It's not going to fit everyone. But, like, I do all of my editing for videos on KDE and Live. KDE Live. But I'm probably going to be switching to DaVinci Resolve Studio on this, because it does work on Linux. I do some photo editing through GIMP, GNU Image Manipulation Processor. But is that sufficient for a lot of people? That is really up to you. There's a few other things as well. And I've heard from some people they've been able to make some Adobe apps run on Linux. I can't vouch for that. I just heard it secondhand. I really was upset Battlefield 6 doesn't run on Linux. Oh well. It's the 6th Battlefield game. You telling me that they have anything new in Battlefield 6 that isn't really been done already? I'm not hating, I'm just saying, like, this goes back to my earlier argument of studios are just not really, you know, doing much except re-releasing IP to get a cash grab. And it's really dumb that developers are requiring kernel-level anti-cheat. It's gotten so dumb to the point that what is it? Wasn't there an issue where you could not run Valorant and Battlefield 6 on the same machine because their anti-cheats would conflict? That Lego game, I got you. There's always a good game of chess. That's always fair. They overwork the staff regardless. Might as well be Linux compatible. Windows should build in sandbox Linux environment so people can switch. Yeah, they've been making a smooth transition over time. Well, smooth is relative when it comes to Windows. Bill was filling Epstein gap. It's like bash commands are the same as the command line. Well, yeah, a lot of the command lines were based off of what were already Unix commands at the time. Because remember, Linux is designed to be a Unix-like replacement. But also, if you pay attention to PowerShell is just bastardized bash. That's really all it is. I'm not particularly a fan of PowerShell. I find the syntax and the way you do things in PowerShell is really weird. Just doesn't make sense to me. What jobs can Linux developers take? A lot. There's quite a few jobs when it comes to Linux, but it really depends on what you're talking about. It's just like anything. You have so many different opportunities. You can do system administration. There's network administration, because a lot of them use Linux appliances underneath it. You've got, cloud engineering, because a lot of them use Linux. You've got, cybersecurity engineering, which I'm at. There's so many ways you can take it, and there's so many different opportunities in IT and cybersecurity, although the market right now is crap, I will say, but yeah. There's a lot of ways you can take this. Straight up developers as well. There's lots of software engineering, coding jobs. It's just a matter of where do you want to go with it. Just catching up on chat. Windows 11 terminal using more standardized bash commands is so nice, and PowerShell being default over command. Yeah, but again, PowerShell syntax is so weird. Really is. Game on laptop, it's good enough. Bought a gaming laptop for when I was deploying on submarines. Yeah, see? It's not easy to have a desktop computer when you're on a submarine. Although I have heard from some friends that were in the military that there was apparently on some ships they would do LAN parties. They would just have to, get clearance or something like that when they got their own computer on board, or so it wasn't hooked up to the ship's internet, something like that. But that's a thing apparently they do. But a laptop makes that a lot easier. Maximum graphics is just visual clutter on screen. That's why I thought Stadia made sense for 10 seconds, RIP. Stadia was a great concept, do not get me wrong. The only reason I didn't buy into it was Google. Not because I hate Google. I do. But because Google has a history of killing products and not giving support long term. That's why I never really had hope in Stadia. I was like, nope, this is going to get nixed just like everything else Google pretty much does. Windows is still struggling to run on ARM. Linux has been running on ARM for decades. Yeah. And what's interesting is technically I think Windows was first to the market when it came to ARM support on a computer. And then Linux shortly came after, and Apple is the last of the party. But a lot of that has to do with the bad execution from Microsoft's part. Microsoft has never really been able to evangelize a lot of the things they're trying to do, save for the exceptions of Xbox and Windows back in the day. Like, Windows now only survives because of the legacy that was established decades ago. In the same way, Apple does the same thing. Gimpa's words doesn't even support drawing tablets. Actually, I've heard people use it with drawing tablets. It's just, I don't know which ones. I'm not a graphic designer, though, so you'd have to look that up. But I have heard of artists actually using it. Clips are done via Clipchamp because I'm lazy. Any tips to gain advantage when entering a help desk role? It does help to have some kind of a portfolio there, not just in terms of a job. Your portfolio can actually be more than just your job. It can be even as simple as a WordPress blog of you documenting your tech journey and what you've built up, and, your, home lab tinkerings and stuff like that. Now, it's been a while since I was entry level, but from what I'm hearing, a CompTIA A Plus may not be bad, but the CompTIA themselves was recently bought out by a venture capital firm, so who knows how that's going to go in the long term, but that's one thing people often recommend. But just remember, certs don't help you get the job. They help you put your foot in the door at most. And I'm saying this as a person who's only gotten one certification in their professional career, the CISSP. And I only did that for fun. But I've been in this field for, 15 years or so? Yeah. God, I've been in this field too long. I'm old! But yeah, help desk, it helps to build a portfolio. LinkedIn wouldn't be a bad idea. And here's the thing, it's not what you know so much as who you know. That's the unfortunate reality with every single field. So I know a lot of people in tech gravitate to it because they are introverts. But I'm going to tell you, go out and meet people. Go to Eventbrite meetups. Go to Eventbrite. Go to meetup.com. Get involved in your local tech community. Find little tech meetups and groups and meet people. Go to business events that happen to, be hiring, all that. Make connections. Make friends. Those friends often are the reason why you'll end up landing a job more often than just applying to random jobs. Because the reality is, and this is the unfortunate situation with the job market right now, and this has even been happening to me. You can apply to hundreds of different jobs and never get one response back. But if you know someone, it can open doors for you. And if they don't know of anything, they may know someone that knows someone that, that's how it works. Get to know people. Build a little portfolio for yourself. Tinker. Show off what you can do, that you're capable of these different things. The hardest thing, I will say, when it came to my tech career, was starting the professional side of it, going from the regular consumer repair and all of that. Because it's that first jump that's the hardest. But you can do it, buddy. It's going to take a little bit of effort. But yeah, I would recommend maybe making a WordPress. You can get a free WordPress. Start documenting the things you do in your home lab, building that stuff up. Get on the LinkedIn, post about the things that you know you're doing as well. Look at local Eventbrite, meetups, Business Chamber. There you go, Business Chamber. That's another thing, like your Chamber of Commerce. Those are great as well. You often can meet people. And, you know, but go in there with the intention to socialize and meet people, make connections, not with the sole intention of coming out, walking out with a job. Yeah, learn how to communicate at different levels, as that is really important. That is a good point as well. Communication is very important in this field, because the reality is there's this common misconception that, oh, I can work in tech, so I'm never going to have to deal with people. Wrong! You're going to deal with a lot of people. Especially if you want to grow in your career. Because here's the reality. Again, it's not what you know, it's who you know very often, more often than not. More often than not. I don't know why I said that like that. Because, you know, like, your managers need to be aware of what you're doing. Your team needs to be able to vouch for you. And if you are just on your own and you don't communicate with your team and everything, they're not going to have your back when you actually need it. I know for a fact that I've had different departments even go to bat for me because I got to schmooze with a few of the people in those departments. Go out for drinks with them. Get to know them. Stop by their cubicle once in a while. Just, you know, shoot the breeze, ask how they're doing. Grab coffee, you know, while you're grabbing coffee, chat there. You know, be open. Big agree. I know coworkers that know much more than me, but I can speak well with others. I feel like their translator at times. Yeah, that's very often the case too. Lightroom is the hang-up. Darktable and raw therapy isn't on the same level yet. Okay, fair enough. Like I said, I'm not a graphic designer, so I'm not too familiar with that workflow outside of the few things that I've done. But yeah. KLC is lazy development, and that's, and there's the case where it wouldn't remove itself after the game was removed. Oh, you're talking about kernel-level anti-cheat. Yeah, I do have to agree that kernel-level anti-cheat is definitely lazy development. Now, as I've talked about, I'm kind of shifting my opinion where I don't even think kernel-level access is necessarily needed for all security things. But it's definitely not needed for a video game. And they don't even work that well. There are cheaters that are getting around kernel-level anti-cheats because there's DMA cheats where they're literally having a piece of hardware in the machine act like it's another piece, like it's a network interface card or whatever, just a random piece of hardware, a sound card, whatever. And then that device will connect to another PC that will be reading directly from the memory of the machine that you're connected to, and then hacking the game there to cheat. It's a novel approach, but what are you going to do to really stop that? And that's why there's a lot of people that are getting false positives with their bands when they have legitimate hardware too. So yeah, it is, kernel level anti-cheat is definitely lazy development. There needs to be more emphasis on server-side detections and things like that. Now, the other reality is that you have to accept there is no foolproof system that's going to stop all cheaters. That's just the reality of life. Just like there are people that cheat in various aspects of their life, not just, you know, the common colloquial term of, you know, in your relationship, but we've all heard stories about people cheating in finances and things like that. But the reality is, we can do our best to clamp down on it as much as possible. Even in real life, you could make the argument like they did, like, oh, we're going to monitor everyone's bank accounts that, is doing more than $600 transactions. Or have $600, or whatever the thing is. Everyone was up in arms saying that's an invasion of privacy. But that idea could catch cheaters. Financially, potentially. But most of those people that would be caught are probably the people that can't afford offshore bank accounts. So that's an example of, the solution is worse than the problem. And kernel level anti-cheat is a solution that is worse than the actual problem. One anti-cheat allows you to uninstall the other anti-cheat. Yep. Which gaming laptop did you end up going with, cheap? I just glanced over your PC specs section and didn't see it listed. Oh yeah, it's a Tuxedo Computers Stellaris Slim. I have the 15, which is the version prior to the version they just released. The latest version has the 5000 series of GPUs and the 9900 series of CPUs. Mine has an 8845HS, an NVIDIA 4070, and 96 gigs of RAM. It's a great laptop. I love it. I don't use it nearly as much as I was hoping to, be using it, but it's there when I need it. Most of the time, I end up using it to edit videos in bed because I don't feel like getting up when I'm lazy. We all have those days. PowerShell. Bash is so intuitive, like programmers actually use it. Well, yeah, Bash is extremely intuitive. Let me just show you. Yep. This is my project over here. So this is Patch Gremlin. Actually, I was just doing some updates on this from another computer. So, git branch. Oh, wait, not branch. Checkout. Logic enhancement. Okay. So this is all written in Bash over here. It is so easy to understand it. If, sudo, then... Oh no, if regular user ID, then this script must be run as root. Please run sudo e. So you can actually read through this, even if you don't know programming that much, and more or less understand it. Like, this is pretty much written very straightforward. That anyone can go to my GitHub, look up Patch Gremlin, and more or less understand how it works. Whereas PowerShell, you may as well be speaking Chinese to me. Are you scared of AI? No. AI doesn't exist. LLMs do, and machine learning does, which is colloquially been referred to as AI because it's great marketing buzz. But no, I'm not scared of it, if you mean by LLMs, because LLMs are basically just a tool. They are a tool that can help you do your job better. The problem that you have is a lot of companies honestly believe that an LLM can replace the jobs of people, and you're already seeing that companies that have tried doing that are failing and hiring people back. Now, I will say that not only does LLM make your work more efficient, by virtue of that, your employer is also going to be demanding more out of you because it's efficient. But we have a problem here, and I've talked about this in other places. I still haven't made a video specifically around it, but we're entering an era where people can vibe code, but they are not vibe checking. They're implicitly trusting the LLM as a source of truth. LLMs can and will make mistakes. Not only that, you've seen me use like GitHub Copilot to write code. It'll write it, but sometimes it does it in ways that I'm like, this is really stupid, the logic that you're going with. That's not how I wanted to do it. Like, for example, when, if I, kept making a project with GitHub Copilot, by default, it would, without me intervening and just making the project, it would be hard coding secrets, which is very insecure. It would be making the entire script as a monolith, which means everything is in one singular script. It's not modularized at all. It would have potentially performance issues, because when I was making Stream Demon, it was doing the processing synchronously, which meant it was doing one platform at a time, processing it, and then waiting for that to execute, and then the next one to execute. Hey, thank you for the follow. Menu. Thank you for the follow. But as I was saying, it would do it synchronously. And then I'm like, no, we can do this asynchronously. We can do all platforms all at once to post to. It also would, there's just a lot of things that it would make mistakes on that, like it wouldn't tell you to use a secrets manager and then build it this way unless I told it explicitly, like I'm doing it with the secrets manager to do this, and I'm going to manage it this way. And then it's like, well, we're going to put, these variables in the secrets manager, and I'd have to fight with it saying, no, the secrets manager is only for secrets. Certain variables should still be in the environment variables and set on the system, but only the sensitive data should be on the secrets manager. Ideally, you could throw whatever you want in a secrets manager and pull it that way, but it doesn't make sense for a lot of things. Alright, so, and what's better than Darktrace? Which one's Darktrace? I feel like that name is familiar. The Essential AI Cybersecurity Platform. This sounds buzzwordy. This sounds buzzwordy as hell. Why does this sound familiar? Were we demoing this project or something like that? Built on our unique AI approach. What are you? Okay, I'm reading a bunch of, buzzwords in here. Oh, network, email. It's like an MSSP, more or less. Yeah, so they got a few tools in there. I haven't personally used them, so I can't really vouch for them. But knowing the fact that they literally have a get a demo over here, and there's no price listed, this product is probably geared more towards enterprise. Identify known and unknown threats across your entire network. Yeah, a lot of tools can do that, though. I'm just not very familiar with that. Sorry, I'm just catching up with chat. Can you replace Windows Command with Bash? Not really. Windows doesn't understand Bash. What screenshot and clipboard manager do you use? Do you keep track of packages? If so, how? Screenshot and clipboard manager, I use the one built into Pop! OS, although I do use a plugin. What was this plugin? It's a GNU privacy, not a GNU privacy, it's a GNOME app, which lets me hold up to 24 things in a clipboard. So, it's just a little thing over here, so here I can show you. This is going to be off screen for the TikTok people, unfortunately. I click this button, I can have multiple things in the clipboard. I already cleared it, and you can even search it. I forgot what let me see, GNOME tweaks, GNOME extensions. Let me check. It'll be in here. Clipboard indicator. That's what it's called. That's the only extension I have on Pop! OS is clipboard indicator. Well, for GNOME. I've removed malicious taskbars from my parents' IE Edge. That's profound. You gotta thank the BBC computer for ARMS, Acorns, then to thank Apple for their success. I Apple really didn't do anything all that revolutionary. They just were later to the party than the rest. If they really wanted to do something revolutionary, I would have said they should have gone with the RISC-V architecture instead of ARM. ARM is a pretty old architecture in and of itself, too. It would have been better for them to have put their money down, invest on RISC-V, get that to marketing, and then build on RISC-V, and then you would have seen me and a lot of other people singing their praises. Do you have any idea what people have done to LinkedIn? I do not know what you mean by that. It gets boring. What, the LinkedIn? Yeah. Networking. Try hanging outside the building during smoke breaks. If you're a smoker, sure. Learn how to communicate. Yeah, we talked about that. Big agree. I know coworkers oh yeah, we talked about that. Ironically, tech workers probably deal with more people more than construction workers. This I actually could agree with. One of my buddies in tech actually is a construction worker. He just does tech as a hobby. He probably deals with people less than me. I think the only time he has to deal with them is when he's knocking on the door saying, hey, we're here to do some work with the lines. I almost landed a job in programmer's event. I don't even know how to code. I'd rather have cheaters than escalate privileges. This I agree with. TPM 2.0 will be used to lock out computers from cheats. Yeah, and TPM's gonna have its own issues. I remember something about how Google themselves actually were building their own computers using classic BIOS because UEFI was causing issues, but yeah. There are games now that are actually requiring Windows 11 for the TPM and other things that they were enforcing. I think Valorant was one of them, if I'm not mistaken. I agree, cheats should be more readily available like in Valve. Okay, what do you recommend for someone who wants to work in cybersecurity? The honest truth is most cybersecurity jobs, most, not all, want to see a few years of IT experience before they'll give you into a technical position in cybersecurity. You can also break into GRC, governance, risk, and compliance, but you're going to be dealing with a lot of compliance, paperwork, spreadsheets, things like that. But it's a way to break in. If you want to go the technical route, you're going to probably want to go through IT and all of that. And here's the thing that I also tell a lot of cybersecurity people. They think just because they have a cybersecurity degree, they're going to get a cybersecurity job. That's not the case most times. You're going to have to eat some humble pie and accept your degree is still going to get you entry-level jobs. And cybersecurity is not an entry-level job in most cases. There are exceptions to this rule, but in most cases, cybersecurity is just not a field people start in. It's a field they build up to. You have to think of cybersecurity more as a specialization of IT. It's still its own thing, but it's still very much related. And you have to have a core understanding of a lot of the technologies and systems that you're going to be dealing with. And I've seen it firsthand where there are people that come into cybersecurity without a technical background, and they are so lost because a lot of the fundamental skills that you learn in help desk and, sysadmin, networking, and other such positions teach you a lot of skills that you're going to use for the rest of your career. They don't troubleshoot as well. They don't get deep into the problem. They don't understand the butterfly effect of how everything connects. And, these are the issues that they may have. So that's my advice when getting into cybersecurity is work on the tech side, but also, like I said, for the other person that was talking about, getting a job in IT, go out and network. It's more about who you know than what you know, because a lot of times who you know knows someone or, can help you get a job in the place you want. Network, meet people through LinkedIn, go to Eventbrite, go to Meetup, go to cybersecurity tech conferences, infosecmap.com is a lot of local events. Most of these don't cost money. Go out, make friends in the industry, go out for coffee with, different people, get to know these people, pick their brains, learn from them. That'll help you out a lot. And yeah, I know some people are going to say, like, well, get this cert, and that cert, and this cert, and that cert. Certs can potentially be helpful, but they don't land you the job necessarily. You are the thing that actually ends up being the reason your job was landed, not the cert. A cert mainly gets you through the gatekeeper and HR. I only have one cert in my entire professional career, as I've talked about. And that's the CISSP. That takes like 5 years of experience you have to prove before you can get the full thing. But that's the only cert I've had in my 15 years being in this field. And I did that mainly just for fun. But I keep it up now. Certs might get you past the AI resume reader, but not the interview. There you go. Will you ever hit enough of a load to get close to 96 gigs? Yeah, with a lot of virtual machines. I've done it. Have you checked out an LLM called Lexi Uncensored V2? Great for those days you can't handle sterile politeness and need someone to cuss. I'm gonna have to put a pin in that. Somebody remind me when I build my LLM box this weekend. Hopefully. I'm planning to go to Micro Center on Saturday and do that. Amazon have sacked 30,000 for AI. Well, here's the question that I have. What positions were sacked? Because a lot of times when organizations end up sacking people, a good number of those people, sometimes the majority, end up being middle management. And the honest truth is, I know some people in middle management, but middle management is kind of, those who can't do manage. We'll leave it at that. What do you recommend for someone who wants to start and study in cybersecurity? Oh, so I already answered the start part. I hope you saw that. The study part, home lab all day. That is what I recommend the most if you want to learn. Like I was just talking to a coworker. They're wanting to learn networking. They're a SOC analyst. So I'm like, dude, you want to get into networking? And he has a managed switch. I'm like, get pfSense. Build a pfSense box or buy one. Read the documentation for pfSense. That will teach you so much of the concepts. And then once you understand the concepts, you can then translate that to a lot. There's a lot of open source tools out there that you can learn to play with. So home labbing. I hear good things about Try Hack Me, Hack the Box. My buddy also runs Parrot CTFs. I hear good things. I personally don't use it. So your mileage may vary. But again, network, meet people, go to conferences. I learn a crap ton going to conferences, and here's the thing. A lot of times, it's not just the conference itself, where I'm going to the talks that may be educational. Sometimes, it's the random people you meet along the way. I have had some of the most insightful discussions on cybersecurity while I was in Vegas in the hot tub for B-sides and DEF CON parties. Just shooting the breeze, talking about different things that we're working on and different approaches that we've done, and sharing war stories of being in cyber and things like that. So, yeah. You can learn a lot from everyone around you in many different ways. And that's an idea that doesn't just apply to cybersecurity. I think everyone in this world has something to gain from someone else that they happen to come in contact with. What that value is for you to determine, but I also think everyone comes into our lives for a different reason, just for you to figure it out. Over-the-wire war games will also help with slowly increasing difficulty levels. Over-the-wire. Oh, those are games. Over-the-wire and war games. Gotcha. You replace Linux Bash with Windows Terminal. It's called installing Linux. Cybersec is something you do after already establishing the necessary skills for networking as sysadmin. It can be networking, help desk. Basically, you need to establish that you have a fundamental concept of understanding some parts in technology. Thank you. I'm very interested in cybersecurity and wasn't sure how to start out. We'll check these out. Yeah, my pleasure. Apple knows how to sell products. They indeed do. Right, I just found that my Cybersec modules were more interesting, which is why I want to dig a bit deeper into it. Don't get me wrong. Cybersecurity is definitely one of the most interesting, intriguing parts of technology. You know, if you're going into the IT, track, I will not lie. It's why I do it. It's interesting. There's so many facets and aspects to it. And cybersecurity doesn't just encompass the digital security side. It can also cover physical, from lockpicking, social engineering, which can be physical or digital. There's so many different aspects around cybersecurity that it's really interesting and how it touches so many different aspects. So I totally get where you're coming from. And a lot of people gravitate and are attracted to cybersecurity for those reasons. But you do need to have a base foundation. Like, look, in order to build any good house, you gotta lay a foundation. And a lot of people don't realize cybersecurity isn't foundation level. It's usually first floor, second floor. So without a good foundation, you're going to be kind of shaky. That's just my perspective and analogy. GRC sounds boring. To some people like it. I find it boring. Yeah. True. Finding hard to get even in placement as they still require experience, which is very difficult to get while still being a student. So if you're still a student, look into internships. Internships are a huge way for you to gain experience while you are still a student. There's a lot of companies that actually will do internship or student hires. Many of those will start sending out applications after the New Year's, or opening up applications after the New Year's. So I would look into internships. There are paid and unpaid internships when it comes to, IT and cyber roles. There's also student hires where they're specifically trying to hire a student. And those are roles that are interesting. We've had a few that they basically shadow us and get to learn from us, and then they did a learning project after their couple months with us and had to present on what they learned and what they helped do. And it's really interesting to see these fresh young minds coming into the field and with their new perspectives, but it's also like funny to look at them and be like, look at them all smiling and happy. The corporate world hasn't beaten them down yet. They're so cute. I'm trying to learn pseudocode, but I'm having a hard time. What advice could you give me? So I'm bad with pseudocode too. So here's what I generally do. I tend to be more of a visual person. This is an application called draw.io. So I actually map my ideas out. Like, this was a project we talked about the other day where I designed a smishing detection system to act as a SOC Tier 1 as a concept. I'm going to eventually recreate this and make it open source, but the idea was, and this ran in the cloud, there was an API built for it and all that. I'm not a good front-end person, so I did not have a front end for it. But the idea was you would send an image of a screenshot, and you see I basically would plot through the process tree of how things would be going. For me, this is what works better. Because the pseudocode aspect of it, it's hard to know what you want each function to do. So map this out first. This will give you an idea of what direction you want to go with your project. So if you're like, hey, I need a flow chart this needs to go into that, and then it's going to loop back, all that. There's Lucidchart, there's Visio, there's Draw.io, there's a few applications that can all do this. But yeah, I would recommend mapping out what you want to do before doing pseudocode, and then refer back to this when you're ready to do the pseudocode. But then some people just write the damn thing. Your mileage may vary. This is what I do. Most of the time I end up just doing this and going off of that. Draw.io has VSC extension. Oh, they do? Huh. Ah, get the hell out! Well, it's not an official one. Draw.io, the unofficial Draw.io, also known as diagrams.net, into VS Code. Edit Draw.io. Oh, interesting. Interesting. There's quite a few integrations there, but that was one of the more popular ones. Hold up. Well, that's a different thing. Yeah, that wasn't even fully released. Interesting. There's a few Draw.io integrations I noticed. Like, that's 5 years ago and hasn't been updated since. This one at least was updated a few months ago. Last updated 34 seconds ago. Oh, that was probably when I updated it. Last released is 8 months ago. Yeah. Thanks for the diagram. Screenshot it. Yeah, well, it's going to be open sourced. And I actually have a better way to do this entire thing. This was just a concept I came up with in about a day and a half of tinkering. But yeah. No wine today. I got a wine fridge over here. And a wine glass. I just haven't really been drinking much wine lately. I'm just getting started with Physical Home Labs. Got one unmanaged and one managed switch and a spare laptop for Proxmox. Nice. What do you think of Pi-hole? It's okay, but I find Pi-hole's kind of limited. So let me put it this way. I use the lists from Pi-hole for my DNS blacklisting, in part with some of my own lists that I found. But it's limiting because it can only work at the DNS level. I prefer using pfblocker NG in my pfSense firewall, which is, you know, at the which is the gateway to my network after the modem, and does all the routing, because I can do the blocking not just at DNS level, but at the IP level too. So that's a little bit more powerful. And I'm not hating on Pi-hole by any means whatsoever. It's a great application. A lot of people like it. A lot of people use it. I'm not bagging on it at all. But I'm just saying, if you're going to go down that route and you're trying to get into networking, you may as well get a pfSense firewall, configure that, and do the thing. Should get bored getting hammered? No! I just kept saying stupid things that got me banned on TikTok for days at a time. Would you recommend disabling tap to pay for debit cards? What about keeping it locked? Don't disable it. Just get a card blocker. So get an RFID blocking wallet, RFID NFC blocking wallet. You can also get sleeves that block that too. That's what I do. I do sleeves and an RFID blocking wallet, both. And then that way, when you go to use your credit card, it's exposed only during that time you need it. Now, short of that, I actually prefer Apple Pay. The reason being, Apple Pay And remember, I'm not the biggest fan of Apple, but Apple Pay is a much better way to pay with things because of how it randomizes the information and keeps it private. There is Google Pay, but Google Pay is not as, private as Apple Pay. It's a difference in how they work. From my understanding, Apple does more of it at the hardware level, whereas Google's doing it at the software level. So do you necessarily trust Google with your information, knowing their business is built on information? They're going to be using that data to collect on analytics on you and what you're buying, probably. Internship is a great place for companies to make you build their product for free. Well, everyone's got to start somewhere. Did you guys know any Linux 32-bits distro that's still supported the last one better? It's for an old computer. 32-bit support is starting to go away more and more and more. The reason being, there's very few people that are using pure 32-bit systems. Now, I'm not saying they don't exist, but you have to remember, 32-bit was already starting to fall out of favor in the middle of, towards the end of Windows XP, because 32-bit operating systems have a 4 gigabyte memory limitation. And what's interesting as well, I remember this was Windows XP, and this was the actual problem people were having. You could have, and that the 4 gigabytes was the totality of memory in there. So let's say you had 4 gigabytes of memory, but your GPU had 512 megabytes of memory. Your system could only use 3.5 gigabytes of that memory. Now, there was a way, I think it was physical address execution, there was a switch you could flip, which then allowed the memory to be separate, and you could have up to 8 gigabytes total in a pool. I can't remember if that was the case or that. I vaguely remember. This is a while ago. But I remember Windows XP x64 edition was a thing. It was a really janky approach at adding 64-bit into Windows. It wasn't as clean as like when Windows 7 did it. Windows Vista did try doing it, but theirs was janky. Again, Vista was just a whole janky piece, period. But Windows XP, what was that? I would say I started moving on from Windows XP mid-2000s, give or take. Just to give you an idea of like how long 32-bit has been falling out of favor. I'm not saying you can't find distributions that have 32-bit still, but what I'm saying is it's going to be harder and harder and harder to find ones that do. Even the Raspberry Pi, the one that runs on a 1 gigabyte, like the 3B Plus I have somewhere around here, like this little guy. This is a Raspberry Pi 3B Plus. Just in an Apple Mac case I 3D printed a while ago. That's a Raspberry Pi 3B Plus with a PoE hat. This is running a 64-bit version of Linux on it. Catching up. I can't spend more than €50 a day tap to pay. That's interesting. I didn't know there was a limit there with tap to pay. Yeah, I use Apple Pay because of tokenization as well. Google Pay just goes through my bank. No more TikTok lives. In the city, I tend to use my phone for tap and just turn NFC on/off as needed. Yeah. What is this canister? What canister? Oh, this? It's a case. So technically, does that mean you can change OS on every device? Yeah, for the most part. I don't know what specific you're alluding to, but yeah. I love Linux, but the Windows XP were such good days. Windows XP, oh, the barrel I've been drinking. It's my big-ass water bottle, so I drink all the water I need all day. My ice water. Yeah, Windows XP was a really great Windows. I would argue it was probably the best Windows to ever Windows. Some people would say 7. I could see their arguments, but XP just... there's something about it. It was so simple. It was so easy. You know... But everything went downhill after Windows 8. We can all agree to that, can't we? I think we can agree to that. I enjoyed sharing XP themes. Yeah, XP had some really, really great themes. How do you retain the stuff you learned when tinkering? I probably forgot more than a lot of people here probably have learned. That's just the reality of when you're in this career. There's just a lot of concepts I take away. But the honest truth is I'll do projects and then I'll forget about how I did the project many years ago. Or months ago. Like, that was the case when I had to review some code that I did for an automation on AWS when we were doing some migrations. And I remember staring at my code because I had just started doing Python and all that. And my architect was next to me and he's like, I get it, you're cringing at your own code. And like, yeah, I'm like, this was horribly written. Like, and I'm criticizing my own code. Like, what the hell was I doing here? What was I doing there? But you just learn more as you go along. You retain what you can, and you just learn from muscle memory. You learn from doing. You learn from talking about it. The main thing to take away is the concepts and a lot of the core ideas. You don't need to remember every little minutia. You just need to remember the little path there. There's a lot of things that I've done over the years. Like, I don't remember half the little tweaks and hacks I did to Windows XP registry, although I do have in my mind the way we had to clear idle tasks from the queue in Windows to sometimes speed it up. Run dll32.exe, add vappy32.dll, comma, process idle tasks, all one word. For some reason, that has stuck with me. Am I ever going to need it again? No, but I remember it. But yeah, just keep up on tinkering and doing, and you'll, you know, keep your mind active and remember a lot of the things that you do, but don't, you know, get upset that you're going to forget a lot of things that you learn along your journey. I believe everyone here has the capability to get to the point of where I'm at, if you put your nose to the grindstone hard enough, and, you know, just keep on hacking, keep on tinkering, keep on building, keep on breaking. That's how we learn. That's how we grow. We can go live now. Oh, interesting. Barrels are a hassle to keep clean. It's called a bottle brush. Scrub. Throw it through a washing machine sometimes. I mean, a dishwasher. Do you know anything about SRS, e.g. Anki? Sounds familiar. I'm not sure off the top of my head. One second. Anki. SRS? Oh, you're talking about this flashcard program? I mean, I know people have been using flashcards and all that, but if that's what you're talking about. I use Windows XP Speed Booster to mess with games and make browser to run faster. I remember there were textbooks you could literally get at Barnes & Noble about hacking Windows to make it run faster and tweaks to make it look better and do all these different things. I remember... Does this still exist? Holy shit, it does. Like, I remember this little tool here. Tweaking.com. Oh, now it's a fully paid for product. Boo! This used to be a free tool. You used to be able to put on your computer, and it would repair a bunch of different issues with your machine. I use this to repair so many different machines. But there was also, Hacking Windows XP book. There are tons of books out there. So, like, there was, like you get from O'Reilly, Windows XP hacks. We used to legitimately get books. I don't particularly enjoy dishwashing. Well, I guess you particularly do enjoy food poisoning! SRS on key is a flashcard system that repeats flashcards based on a simple algorithm. Oh, okay. I mean, some people work well with flashcards. Ain't my bag, but hey, people learn differently. Different strokes for different folks. QEMM for Windows 3.11. Man, I haven't touched 3.11 since I was a little kid. I barely remember it. I remember my aunt had a Windows... I think that was Windows 4. God. I'm on Windows Vista. Should I upgrade? I know you be trolling. If you hit... Hold on. What'd that say? If you hit bad, then it will repeat sooner than hit good. And it only introduces a few new cards, keeping previous days' cards in review and really long time cards and saves. Interesting. Would you worry about VM escaping malware if you wanted to delve into unsafe things, e.g. gore? I'm not sure what gore has to do with this, but look. I'm not Christian, but I think by that statement... Hold up. Where's the remote? I need to get the remote for dramatic effect. I need to remember where I put my remotes. Those are the dog treats. I'll find it later. But look, I'm not a Christian by any means, but I think you need Jesus. Okay, that's gonna drive me nuts. I really do need to clean this desk. It's been a while. It's been a couple months since I've cleaned this desk. And the problem is, every time I tinker and have a new project, then I'm like, oh yeah, here, we're just gonna throw it here. Ends up never cleaning it. Okay, that is gonna bother me. Anyway. What you worry? Oh yeah, but I wouldn't worry too much about VM escaping malware. Does it exist? Yes, but it is few and far between. Hypervisor breaks are extremely rare. But it is a reason why I honestly do not use pfSense on a virtual machine. I know some people who virtualize the appliance and run it in their network that way, but I am not one of those people. Okay, that's something else. Okay, this is gonna bother me because I know the remote's here, and I literally just saw it before stream. Oh well. Find that later. Our tough books were Windows 7 until a couple years ago. Oof. I know a company that's still running Windows XP on some of their tough books. Once cards hit the 2 to 3 month time, I retire them, basically saying remove from rotation. Okay. Core was simply a mere example of, by the way. Either way, you need Jesus. But, with that being said, I wouldn't be too worried about malware breaking out of, a virtual machine. It can happen if you're that worried about it. This is why you should maybe not just detonate malware to see what it does on a virtual machine, but a virtual machine that is isolated from the network. You want to containerize it as much as possible. Firewall it. Shut it off from the world. Isolate it. Stick it in the insane asylum. All the above. Check Discord. Oh, co-host TikTok Live. I honestly can't co-host because when it goes through OBS Live, I don't have that option. Sorry. That's one of the downsides of when you run it through OBS. You don't get those features with TikTok. Otherwise, I would. Catching up. Chats. Vista was so horrible with all the pop-ups. Yeah. Why Bill can't step up and make a proper OS? Because Bill Gates hasn't been involved in Windows for about 20 years. He got ousted in part due to the Department of Justice antitrust lawsuit case. The one I mentioned a little bit earlier, that they learned about Embrace, Extend, Extinguish. Wouldn't an Amnesiac OS be a better option? Not necessarily. If the whole idea is, containing malware, an Amnesiac OS would be just as vulnerable as anything else if you're trying to containerize it. At best, it would just, wipe things out on the machine, but what do you do about the connections that the machine is having? What happens to the things that you may be logged into at that time? Cookies, stuff like that. So an Amnesiac OS is great from the idea of you start from a clean slate every time. It's great for that. Cubes OS has disposable VMs that do that. But it's a matter of, it's not necessarily the right tool for this job. And an Amnesiac OS still has to be put on bare metal. A virtual machine can help sandbox it a little because there are some viruses that can actually write to the firmware and live on the firmware. They're few and far between, but they are out there. So that's why you also should update your BIOS once in a while. Do you know if Microsoft fixed their update from going to 10 or 11? I'm worried about the updating. Updating with Windows has always been a little bit of a gamble. The problem is, especially as the past few years, the problem is Microsoft actually used to have a really, really robust testing program. They used to have warehouses, literal warehouses, filled with nothing but wall-to-wall computers running synthetic tests with all sorts of hardware configurations and software configurations to make sure there was no weird behavior. They got rid of that. And what they replaced it with was the Windows Insider program. The Insider, beta program and all that. What, you really think Microsoft is just, letting you, get the latest and greatest software out of the kindness of their heart? No, they're doing it because they want to make you a guinea pig so they don't have to pay nearly as much on test suites, and then you're supposed to give feedback to Microsoft, but the problem is there seems to be more of a culture inside of Microsoft Windows users, especially the ones that do beta test, to not actually give feedback, which is an important part of beta testing. So that's the reason why updating has been more of a gamble with Windows in the past few years. The insider program is basically done away with all the quality controls they used to have. Windows used to be a really, really rock-solid operating system, especially XP after Service Pack 2. XP and XP Service Pack 1 were... a lot of people stayed on Windows 2000 because of that reason. But, yeah. If someone had something on you digitally, could you theoretically hack their device? How? I think you've been watching too much Hollywood. You can theoretically hack anything, but that's such a broad question that makes me go, And the honest truth is, most compromises aren't even done with sophisticated attacks. They're done through social engineering. Why check software? Drop day one update. Sup, GoviCat? What do you think is the job role that is not, cocked and easy to get junior position on? Right now, the market's hard for everyone. I'm just going to preface that. It is a tough market, period. Entry-level jobs are getting really hard to come by now. And it's not because you may be qualified or anything. It's the reality of you have a much larger pool and much fewer openings than in many times in my past with the market. I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer here. I'm just trying to give a realistic picture. This is one of the worst job markets I have seen in years. And I'm not trying to go on a political rant here, but Trump has caused so much uncertainty in the marketplace that businesses can't properly conduct their forecasts on how business may be because things are changing day to day. Oh, there's tariffs. No, there's not. Oh, there's tariffs. No, there's not. Oh, there's more. We're going to double tariffs. No, there's not. We have no consistency. And because of that, a lot of employers have slowed down hiring, frozen it in many cases, and it's very hard to hire right now because they're not wanting, they're worried about what the situation is going to be in the next year, 2, 3, because you can't really have an outlook as well. So the market is very tough right now. And I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, it's because of LLM and AI. No. You're actually finding more jobs are asking people to actually understand AI and LLM. I actually know of a few colleges now that as part of their orientation curriculum or one of the basic requirements to graduate now is they have to take a course on understanding how to create a prompt for LLMs and how to use them more effectively. And now there are many coding jobs, by the way. Okay? Yitz. 20-year, full-stack developer, been doing it for many years. He is now expected to have almost all of his code made by Claude. They have a Claude Enterprise there. They will actually raise a fit if you do it as human-generated code because they will see that as time wasted. Now, they do want human checking code. They just don't want the human writing the code as much. Like I said, we're entering an era where we are vibe coding, but we're not really vibe checking. And I'm really worried, though, more for the entry-level people, because a lot of the fundamental skills that they may need to, should, whatever the operative word you want to use is, they're not going to get that opportunity as much. Like, the next generation coming in, I'm genuinely curious, how are they going to be if they can't learn a lot of the fundamentals that we did and then just go to an LLM to build everything, and they don't learn how to conceptually do a best practice. Vibe coding but not checking explains all the problems with Windows this year. Not all of them, but a few of them. And that's because companies are expecting you to be more productive with your time. So they're expecting you to use these tools. But the problem is when you have a lot of these people are using LLMs as a crutch. There's a difference between using it as a crutch and using it as a tool. You've seen me even vibe code quite a few things here. But there is no way... there is no way, if you looked at my code, that an LLM would have written all this on its own without you actually knowing the conceptual knowledge behind it. You know, oh, I wanted a script to, you know, this originally started as an idea to notify me on Discord and Matrix when I do a system update. But it originally built it only for Debian, and I'm like, well, I also want it for Red Hat Enterprise Linux, like Amazon Linux and Fedora, anything running DNF. See? Still, configure security updates with Discord, okay? It went through that. It had several logic issues that I went through. We had to make test suites, an uninstall script, split the update notifier to its own thing. I wanted it to make a systemd process. Not only that, I wanted it to use Doppler secrets management. An LLM is not going to be able to know to do this out the box. Which is why you, the individual operating the LLM, have to still fundamentally understand good coding concepts and best practices. Because it can, and it will, make mistakes. Which is why you should also have a CI/CD pipeline to check things out. I can show you what that is. We've talked about this a few times. But if we look at one of my projects, bring up Stream Demon here. Alright, you can see in my pull requests, because I'm actually not committing to main, I'm doing my own pull requests. I had a blue sky hashtag fix because it wasn't making hashtags properly. You can see there's several commits here because I had issues with the logic. Right here, automatically in the CI/CD, a dependency review. No vulnerabilities or license issues or OpenSSF scorecard issues found. It's doing that. But what it's also doing... Is this going to show my checks? Ah, there we go. I have it testing Python 3.10 through 3.14, building and testing the Docker image, a dependency review, analyzing the code, a lint and security check, scan dependencies for vulnerabilities, SNCC then scans on top of it, a code quality check, SNCC has another pass over on different things, Trivy, which runs the Docker and sees what vulnerabilities are there. So I am checking, not just vibing. Should we act like Luddites? You can act like however you want. Windows 11 should have come with day one paywall DLC. What's up, no nukes? I vibe check my code a lot as an entry dev. Usually this means more line-by-line analysis and heavier unit tests. Fair enough. Like, I've looked at the code that it's produced, and I'm like, this is kind of weird. Why are you doing it this way? Oh, you're writing to this. That doesn't make sense. This is insecure. There's quite a few things that it'll do. People, I think, are not overwhelmingly, but there's a good amount of people that are going to LLMs as an authoritative source, and I think that's a very dangerous thing, because LLMs are the epitome of garbage in, garbage out. You can train it on absolute garbage. I'm done with pen testing, so I'm switching to cloud security. What your opinion, I mean, in job terms? You mean, so you're switching to blue team on defense? It's worthwhile to know, because I also tell people, you know, the best pen testers know a little blue team, and the best defenders know a little pen testing. So, it's like yin and yang. You got a little blue and red, and a little red and blue, and you'll have perfect harmony. But I will say this, there are definitely more jobs on the blue teaming side of things than the red teaming side of things. I think it's worthwhile to pursue. I'm curious how that jump will come for you, because it's different things you're approaching, and there's a lot of different systems as a pen tester you may not fully understand from the defense side, or at least, you know, wrap your head around it completely, or, you know, at least conceptually. Whereas, like, in the blue team side, a lot of times they're specifically asking for, like, you to know certain vendors for a certain role. So, that'll be interesting to see. Well, you joined... What? No, I'm not leaving backdoors in code. Universities are now restricting classes to dev using only things covered in class. Use math.function instead of math.other function equals instance 0. Really? Interesting. Have we heard of any problems following an upgrade task from Windows 10, 11, drivers hibernate, etc.? There's always problems with different Windows upgrades that happen to different people for different reasons. It's just how it is. There's always been problems. People going from XP to Vista, Vista to 7, 7 to 8, 8 to 8.1, 8.1 to 10, 10 to 11. It's just par for the course. The same could be said even when you're doing Mac OS updates, Linux updates. No OS is immune to this. I'm a hobbyist and I've never used AI to code anything. Well, if you want to go far in this career, the reality is you're going to have to at least understand it and sometimes use it. That's just the honest truth. There's not a single person in the entire department that I've been at who hasn't used an LLM to do something for them. And it does make quite a few of your tasks a little bit easier to do. Are you on TRT? What? What's TRT? I think that should answer your question. I don't know what that is. Oh, testosterone replacement therapy. No, I'm not. Oh, I ask it questions and have it teach me, but code everything myself. I mean, you can do that, but here's the reality. I did that for a while, but it's going to be much faster when you actually use it in your IDE or something like that to analyze the code and do that. And that's what a lot of companies are now expecting you to do. That's just the harsh reality of things. It's like, I don't care what people's ethics are on it, that's just the reality of things. Hey Chief, do you know, do you have a trick for knowing if Ethernet cables are terminated in A or B configuration? Not really. The honest truth is it doesn't matter as long as they test well. As long as they pass a test, it really doesn't freaking matter. It's all the same crap. It doesn't really matter. I know there are a couple configurations for how you can terminate Ethernet into an RJ45 that are correct. But you don't even have to be that strict on it. I've literally just crimped cables and just made sure the colors match up on both ends. They test good, call it a day. If they don't, cut off the head, redo. There's definitely a middle ground here. Devs who tried AI coding once without proper prompting think it's really bad, while those without much coding knowledge think it's really good. Middle ground. Yeah, I do find that there's a lot of people, and it's shocking the amount of people I've come across that don't know how to prompt. Like, some of them actually get conversational with it, or, you know, that, and I'm like, you have to be very specific. You have to do certain things. Like, when I send code into an LLM, I triple backtick and enclose it that way. Sometimes I'll do the triple backtick with what the language is right next to it. Got a job offer and my current company countered with a higher pay plus promotion. Thanks for the advice. You see? I'm glad it worked out for you. Hold up. I hope you could see hear the applause through it. But yeah, Mazel Tov on the pay and the promotion. Yeah, don't be afraid if, you know, you are given an offer from another job to go into your current job and tell them, look, I got an offer. I'm considering it, but I want to give you a chance because I don't really want to leave. Very often, if it's a reasonable request and it can be done, they may work with you because that institutional knowledge that you have at the company is very valuable. Sure, they can hire someone to replace you, but will they have that institutional knowledge? Probably not. And it's going to take that new person multiple months to even become comfortable in the new position that they're in to be properly effective. And even at that point, they're still not going to have that institutional knowledge. So sometimes it's better for the company to suck it up, pay you some more, to keep you. Because there is another type of... they don't talk about this very often in the job place. They'll refer to people as a flight risk. What does that mean? It's an employee that is looking to leave. They're unhappy for various reasons. And the most common ones are lack of pay, or, you know, adequate pay, or no ability to see career growth in where they're at. Those are the most common ones. That's a big problem. And that's why a lot of people leave. And the honest truth is, I think more companies need to actually pay attention to their employees to keep them happy. Because the honest truth is, a lot of people work at places, they don't want to leave, but they feel like they are put in a position where they have to leave to grow. I've been in that position a few times. I'm kind of in that position now. But yeah, AI prompting is just advanced pseudocode. It's a good way to put it. But yeah, the other thing I think that we need to address specifically in this country, in Europe it's not nearly as much of an issue when it comes to jobs. We need pay transparency. Every single job should list the pay range for the job that they are putting up. Not only that, I think it should be perfectly fine to, you know, have your to share how much you're making at your job with your coworkers and everything. The only reason why this is so taboo in Americans is because it caters to companies to keep you down. Because as long as you are kept in the dark about what your others are making, you're not going to raise as much of a fuss. But if you start realizing, I'm doing the same job, but I'm getting paid a lot less than, you know, Sally over there, you're going to start, you know, questioning and being like, I want a pay raise, or I'm going to leave. Yeah, we aren't learning a lot by sticking around, yet we feel we need our jobs. Yeah. We're agreeable to our hours on the job, our commute culture. Yep. Yep. How's work treating you? Work is work. I'm kind of in that issue right now where I'm looking to advance in my career. I don't really see an opportunity to grow where I'm at. I'm kind of bored, I will be honest, which is why I've been, after a period of burnout, I got back into doing a lot of the tinkering projects that I'm doing. This weekend, I'm going to be building an LLM server with some spare computer parts. I'm kind of bored at my job. I feel like I'm not getting paid enough, and there's not really a career growth that I'm seeing where I'm at. So I'm kind of in that same position. I'm not actively looking for the door, but let's just say I'm keeping note of where the door is, and once in a while I'm opening the door a little bit, just to see what it's like outside. You got an LLM and TTS server? Yeah, I'm working on that as well. So I'm going to be upgrading the stream PC over here, which has a 3050 in it, to a 5050 so I can start doing AV1 encoding, get some better quality streams over on Twitch and stuff like that. Take that 3050, make an LLM server with it, take my 1660 Super that I also have laying around, put that in it, keep the 1660 Super dedicated for TTS and maybe some smaller LLM stuff. And then the 3050 8GB version is going to be there for maybe like a 7B model. I got to figure out which one. And that'll be there for some of my processing that I do for like my automations and the streaming announcements that I do and stuff like that I built out. A 5060 Ti 16GB is decent. Yeah, they're decent, but the idea that I had is I'm just using spare hardware from this machine, so that way I can minimize the new computer build. Because I already have the CPU, I have the motherboard, I just need to go buy memory, a power supply, an NVMe, and a case. So just throw that all in. Poor man's LLM server to hold me over until they upgrade. But that does make me curious now. How much does a 5060 cost? 5060 Ti. Because it's more the memory size that I need than anything. Alright, let's see. PC parts. Checking Micro Center sites. You have a GT 1030 on your garage server and does 2B models, not too bad. Yeah, some of those older GPUs can still at least hold their own. I'm trying not to put too much money into it right now. Next year, I want to get a 5070 Ti for this guy over here to upgrade my 3070. And then what I'll probably do is put that 3070 in the place of where that 3050 is. Or no, I'd take the 3050, keep that in there, put the 3070 in place of the 1660 Super, move the 3050 to the 1660 Super's job. All graphics cards. NVIDIA. I have RAM and NVMe's. Pretty good little knock. The tariffs effed us on RAM sticks. Yeah, the tariffs screwed us all over. They really did. I also wish that it still blows my mind that the top-end NVIDIA GPU, the 5090, for the consumer class, is like $2,400. I remember when top-of-the-line GPUs were like, they weren't that much. You know? Ooh, no, 5060 Ti 8GB. There's some 5060s that have 12GB. But you said there's one that has a 16GB? 3080 with 10GB. not seeing any with 16. I have a 1650 lying around, not sure what to do with it, and it's only 32 gigabyte. 5090 should already be 48. I thought it's 24 on the 3090. I could be mistaken. Ah, here we are. A PNY 5060 Ti, 430 bucks. That's not too bad. That's not too bad. Okay. That's doable. That's doable. I mean, it's not as good as, like, the 5070 Ti that I want to put in this bad boy over here, but I just really need more memory. I shall have to talk to Yitz about it. Because I was thinking I needed a 5070 Ti, but that brings down the price tremendously. But that would mean I'd have to buy a 5050 and a 5060 Ti, which then would still leave my 1660 Super in play. Huh. The 8B models I run use about 4 gigabyte VRAM. Granted, training those models takes a lot more. Yeah. Well, adult money. I mean, it's not too big of a deal to get... Well, here's the other thing. That 5060 Ti, I wonder... What was it I didn't want to get it for? Nope, never mind. It has the old-fashioned 8-pin PCI Express connector, so that's not an issue. Okay. That's kind of nice that it does that. Wait a minute. Now it got me thinking. What's a 5060 Ti versus 3070? Would a... Oh, I'm curious just how much difference that would make compared to a 3070, because that could actually be an easy upgrade path if it's much better for my gaming needs. Because that would keep me from needing to... replace the entire PSU. Ooh. It's only like 10 to 20% better. But it has a wider memory bus. Okay. It's an option. Yeah, that though, the 5060 Ti would actually be a good GPU for models. For sure. I'm gonna have to talk to Yitz about that. Now, what I'm curious about is, doesn't the 5070 Ti require that new connector? It's annoying how expensive these GPUs are now. It really is. It's ridiculous. Also, do you remember when everyone was up in arms about how GPU miners were, you know, using all the power, buying all the GPUs and everything, but no one seems to care anymore about LLMs and everything like that. I wonder why that happened. Okay, yeah, it does need that new connector. Yeah, so the 5070 Ti still would probably be close to a G upgrade between power supply, GPU, and then I'd need to get some new mod cables to replace the theme that I have there. Okay. Oh well. Company adopting to AI, but the security of it is zero, so a new era of cyber warfare. What's your opinion? Well, yeah, you definitely have to take approaches with AI. So I know where we work, they're planning to eventually close off all LLMs outside of Microsoft Copilot and Amazon Q, anything that they're actually paying for and have agreements to monitor. But there are products like Zscaler out there that actually has the ability to record the prompts that you're actually using and then have DLP in line. The bigger issue is people are feeding information into an LLM that you shouldn't be giving out, that's company secrets or whatever. So the LLM is actually training on that proprietary data. That's where I think the big risk is, more so than anything. The security around it is more what people are putting into it and not thinking very cautiously about than anything. But, it's getting a little late, guys. I want to thank you all for joining me. Make sure, if you haven't already, join the Discord and join the Matrix servers. The links are in bio if you don't see the link down here. It helps if I type it right. If you don't see the link in chat over there. But also, make sure to follow me on all of my socials. I'm on Blue Sky, Mastodon, YouTube, Twitch, TikTok, Kick. So, I'm pretty much everywhere. Thank you all for joining me. Stick around for the raid if you're ever on Twitch, and I will see you all later. As always, stay safe and happy hacking.